You're going to practice using all the film techniques that you just took notes on, and you're going to practice with some analysis with some short clips. So, this is going to be our first clip. You're going to want to fill in your document/form. Please note that in the form for each number that I've linked each clip, so that if you just click on the number, then you can go directly to the clip I am talking about. So our first film is Philadelphia. It was released in 1993, directed by Jonathan Demme. Philadelphia was one of the first mainstream Hollywood films to acknowledge HIV/AIDS, homosexuality, and homophobia. Tom Hanks won an Oscar for his portrayal of Andrew Beckett, and Denzel Washington was also in this film. The film techniques that you need to focus on as you're watching the film: first, shots; second, sound; and third, camera angles. And especially, what angle does the reader experience the action, especially when we first jump into this clip. Alright? Go ahead and view that and take some really awesome notes. Moving on to the second one. Of course, it has to be Alfred Hitchcock, Rear Window from 1954. This is considered one of the best films ever made. It's a mystery/thriller that relies on the dangerous psychology of voyeurism, watching other people. The film techniques you want to look for: you want to identify 2 different types of camera angles and 2 different types of camera movement. Third, one of my favorites, we have The Age of Innocence, released in 1993 by Martin Scorsese. The Age of Innocence is based on the book by Edith Wharton, and it's a period piece that features opulent lifestyles and the vapidity that can go along with such superficiality. As you watch, also try to note and think about the impact that costume has on the film's mood. It won the best costume design Oscar the year that it was released. As you watch, I want you to focus on dissolve, point of view, and think about whose eyes the viewer is seeing the story or the action from, shots, and camera movement. Moving on to number 4, we have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, directed by Sergio Leone. This is the final film of the Dollars trilogy, and it's one of the best examples of a spaghetti western. And a spaghetti western is a movie about the American Old West, but it was made cheaply in Europe and typically made by an Italian producer and director. Initially, the spaghetti western protagonist was a loner or an outcast in the Clint Eastwood mold, darker and more cynical and snarky. Not the traditional John Wayne style good guy in a white hat. Clint Eastwood style, more unpredictable, more flexible, more cynical. Not the only deviation, Italian filmmakers took the tropes of American Western and exaggerated them, with oddball villains, over-the-top violence, and operatic music. And you will see that for sure in this clip. As you watch, focus on 2 different types of shots, and identify the diegetic and non-diegetic sounds and the effects. Moving on to 5. We have Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles. He also starred and produced and co-screened and wrote it. It's a fictionalized story based on the life of William Randolph Hearst. The film was Welles' transition into film from radio, and it was nominated for 9 Oscars. If you're into films at all, if you want to study films more seriously, this is a film that you need to see. This was released in 1941, and the film techniques you want to look for as you're watching: you want to identify 2 different types of lighting and 2 different types of editing. And we have to have Psycho, of course, the infamous shower scene. Released in 1960, directed again by Alfred Hitchcock. It's a psychological horror film, and it was famous for its time for its gruesome death scenes. The techniques you want to look for will be diegetic and non-diegetic sound, and 2 different types of editing. Last but not least, you're going to take all of your knowledge as you watch the opening of Apocalypse Now from 1979, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. What you're going to do is you're going to identify at least 3 different film techniques. Please note Apocalypse Now was an iconic war film based on the Vietnam War. And on set, it was really well known for rampant drug use, super hot, excruciating conditions, and a lot of the actors did a lot of improv. All right? So use what you know, and you're going to identify at least 3 different film techniques, your choice, used in the opening scene.